All right, let's get this started. Okay, so first of all, I want everybody to know that this is being recorded and will be shared on YouTube. So just so that you know, in case you really do not want your face shown to our audience or any of those things. If you want to speak, you can speak without your camera being on. I just always want to make sure that people have that disclaimer. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Cay and myself to the front, and that I don't know how it'll show up on the recording, but just that little reminder to everybody. All right, so welcome to our skills labs. This is our second month in a row doing the skills labs. We're going to be offering these every Friday, the first Friday of every month throughout the year. We're really excited about doing these, and this stems from a lot of feedback actually from the conference, where people are like, all these offers from sponsors and tools look great, but we don't know what to do with them. We don't know when we need them. We don't know all of these things. So we figured, rather than doing more webinars with the owner of the product, who will come in and give us great, how-tos and an overview of the program, which we already have, which you're more than welcome to go back and watch the webinar that Plottr did with us, that we would rather have people in our audience who are actually using the tools come in and show us how authors are using them, so that we can see from somebody who's a user how to do it. So no one from the company is here. We are not representatives of the company in any way, shape, or form. We cannot answer your tech questions well, maybe there may be some questions that we can help if it's like, I can't get it logged in, I can't do any of those things. We are not representatives of the company, nor can we tell you everything in the world about this product. We're just going to have guests who can come in and tell us how they use them. So today we're talking about Plottr. And Plottr is a tool that can help you outline your books and organize them and keep it, if you are the type that likes to have everything in nice, neat, organized places, and even help you kind of figure out how to do it. I actually am not a Plottr user yet. I bought the license, but like our attendees, I don't know what to do with it. So we brought Cay in, who is actually using it, so that she can give us a rundown. We are in a meeting format, so everyone can speak, everyone can ask questions, everyone can do all of those things, but I'm going to pass it over to Cay, and she's going to do her demonstration, and then we will have time for people to ask questions or for us to dig into a few more things to get down in the specifics on it. So please, there's no Q&A box, so you can use the chat box to ask questions if you want, or just hold them to the end and then ask Cay. So any questions before we get started on what we're doing, why we're doing, what we're talking about, all of those types of things? No? All right. Well then, Cay, I'm going to kick it over to you, and you are in charge.
Oh God. Okay, so I am so happy y'all came. I am a big fan of Plottr. Alexa had a tutorial with the actual, I don't know if he was the owner or just a Plottr person, but he did maybe 5 minutes of his tutorial, and I instantly went over and bought it because of how sophisticated the program was, and it thinks the way that I think, which is why I'm such a big fan. The nice thing about this program is you can use it to either plot out your current book or that you're working on, or in my case, I'm actually using it to keep track of my notes because I'm in the middle of a 4-book series, and I want to make sure I catch everything along the way. So I make sure all the questions that were asked in the first couple books are answered in the last couple books. Now, the one caveat I'm going to start with on this is we are going to show you a bunch of programs over the course of the year. And especially when you're in the summit, you're introduced to a lot of programs. You are not required to go out and buy them. I know Alexa has given that piece of advice before. What I encourage people to do is when you see something you like, go check out the free trial that most products offer free trials. Go get the free trial and make sure you allot time to actually play with the program. And then you can decide, yes, I want it. No, I don't. And I know during the summit that's in March, the Women in Publishing Summit, there's a lot of programs that are, because they're our sponsors, give us discounts and you can get good prices on them. So that's my caveat. Now let's go into Plottr itself. Let me share my screen with y'all. Okay, a bunch of Zoom screens showed up on me. All right, so when you download Plottr, and I'm sure we can put you can just Google Plottr and it'll pop up. You download the program from the website and you can get a desktop version. When you get the actual program, you can get it for 1 device, 3 devices, or there's a top level thing. I got it for 3 devices because I have a phone, I have a tablet, and I have a computer. So therefore, I can take it with me everywhere I go. I could have a moment in a doctor's office where I want to put a note into Plottr, and I will now have it on device. And it's like in the cloud. It will be on all devices. So it's great. Now, when you get it and you put it on your computer, it will come up like this. This is your home screen, also known as your dashboard. It's important to remember the dashboard part. We're going to create one from scratch, and then I'm going to take you through how I use it for one of my projects. Okay. So you're going to have the option. You can create a blank project. You can do it from a template. You can upload or import. It's great. We're going to create a blank project. We're going to use my current project. I'm doing Mother Goose rhymes, like backstories to Mother Goose rhymes. So it'd be nice if, Mother Goose. Okay, so I'm going to call the project Mother Goose. All right, we're going to create it. It's going to open up in the timeline. If you see the tabs at the top, this is your menu bar. It's going to open up in your timeline. But if you want to know what your main dashboard for the project looks like, it's this page right here. It's called Mother Goose. That's the name of the series. You can put the premise of it. In my case, it's the back stories to Mother Goose rhymes. Okay. Genre is YA, and you can go on from there. Now I want to start on this page because this is where you build the project and this is where the project begins. So this is your first book. Okay. You could technically put the cover of the book. If you know what your cover looks like, you could do that. You just hit the image. Let me scoot all this over. When you're looking at the book, you see it turn on its side. You have the option to edit, or you could add a picture, and that's what we're going to do. Now, obviously, we're just starting this project. There are no pictures in your files here. So we're going to upload, and we're going to upload it from my desktop. So I have my Plottr demo here. Covers, season 1. That's my cover for season 1. Boom, there it is. And I think I'll just have to choose it. And now it ends up on the front of the book. So now there's your first book. If you want to add a second book, you just hit the plus. Now you can add a template if you're doing a new series, don't have a template in your head. But in this case, my second, we'll just say book 2. Okay. And save it. Go back out. There's book 2. We'll add the cover to book 2. Same process. Just go through. I know S2 is my book 2. Open. Choose. Look at that. So book 1, book 2, and so on and so forth. That you can put as many books in this program as you want. All right. So now let's go into the project. This is your main timeline. You can use timelines however you want to. We can do it as this is season 1 because Mother Goose rhymes come in seasons. Let's say this is season 1. And in season 1, I know my first chapter is Humpty Dumpty. Okay. I know my second story is Little Bo Peep. My third story, I'm going to do the first 5 just so we have something to work with here. Okay, the third story is Jack and Jill. Fourth story is Wee Willie Winky. If you're younger like me, I didn't hear that story until I read the Goose Rhyme myself. And then the fifth one is Old King Cole. Okay, so there's your basic, those are my first 5 stories in my first season, right? Well, I can go ahead and put season 2 down here. If I wanted to, I could put season 3. If you're writing a book, maybe you're putting your main storyline right here. You're putting your ingenue story here. You're putting your villain story here. And what you can do is as you add chapters, you can like say, maybe you'll put this chapter, it's can be on the main story, but you can also put like introduce, it'd be great if I could spell intro character, you know, and that's what you're going to do in the first chapter, and then the villain is introduced in the second, you know. So this is the great thing about these lines. Now, I don't know why anybody would need to do this, but you can flip them whichever direction you want, and you can move the cards around. So maybe I didn't maybe I didn't want, I'm going to delete this card. Maybe I wanted Humpty Dumpty in the second season, and maybe I really wanted Bo Peep in the third season. Okay, so you can move cards around to wherever you need them to be. Now, the only thing I haven't figured out yet is maybe I wanted Bo Peep to be the first story. I can only figure out how to put them on top of each other and then switch them. But that's really up to wherever you want. Like maybe you wrote a chapter here and you really think it should be the third chapter, so you bring it down here and you scoot this one back, you know? So that's the great thing about this kind of a program is you can move things around as you brainstorm. Like maybe you introduced a character too soon, or you need to shuffle things around. This is a great program for this. You can put the title of your chapter up here. You just double click on it and you could put it here. I personally prefer to keep the chapters up at the top so I can keep track of what chapter I'm on. So that is how the timeline basically works. And if say like you have a chapter, but you got some questions on it, you can add as many cards below the card and say like questions. And we can move on from there. You know what I mean? All right. So that's the gist of the timeline itself. Now, let's go into the actual cards. There's a lot of information that can be found in each of these cards. I told the first group I ever taught this to, think of it like index cards of information. The nice thing is this is a really big index card that's holding a lot of information. Okay. And as you go in here, I tend to put the synopsis. I tend to put the synopsis here, and it's Humpty Dumpty. So meets him, oops, and okay, so that's the gist of what happens here. I'm abridging it for this tutorial. Now there you'll see a bunch of information down the left side of your screen. Okay, I found out this morning that say I didn't want Humpty Dumpty in this book. I wanted it in another book. You could put it like if I wanted it in book 2, I could change which book it's in based on the book line up here. Right now we have it in the first season, which is where we are right now. This is the plot line. Like maybe I didn't want Humpty Dumpty on this plot line. I wanted it on another plot line. Okay. And then what chapter is it in? This is another way to move the chapters around a little more linearly, in the sense that like instead of sliding the boxes around on the timeline, you can move it actually written chapter 1, chapter 2. You can put it there. And if I put it like say chapter 3, if I close this, Humpty Dumpty's here in chapter 3, you see? So another way, since I don't actually I like to keep my projects clean. I like to keep season 1 as season 1. I don't like to put a bunch of seasons in the same timeline. I was more inclined to do this. If anybody's heard my Mata stories, it jumps around in time. So what I prefer to do is her current age, her young adult, and her childhood. So then I can keep track of the stories. I know Humpty Dumpty is young adult. Let me get rid of this card real quick. Bo Peep is young adult. Jack and Jill is current age. Wee Willie Winky is current. Old King Cole is current. Okay, I think she gets into her childhood stories later on this season. This is how I like to track my actual stories for Mata, because I got to make sure no stories overlap in time. Okay, so going back into Humpty Dumpty, as we look, we see places and tags and characters, colors. What are all these things? If you look across the menu, you'll see that you have the same information up here. So what you can do is, these are like character breakdowns. So when you go into a character tab, you always hit the plus sign, and Mata Rhymes is our main character. You have a category right here. She is my main character. Okay. Short description, she's sassy and she's country. Okay. And you can put any other information you want down here. I like images, so I would upload a picture of her. Let's go back to my desktop, the demo, characters, Mata. All right, that's what Mata looks like, and this is how it's going to pop up in the bubble. I haven't figured out how to change where this box is in the image. The best I can come up with is you cut that picture down to what you want it to be before you upload it. That's the best information I can give you on that one. Okay, I'm actually not going to rename it. Boom. So now her image is sitting right there, and I have it. It's also in here. We'll do one more just so I have a couple characters. We'll actually do two more. We'll do Petra. Petra is her goose. She is also a main character. All right. Upload a file of her. Petra. She's a cranky gray goose. All right. That's a very accurate picture. And she is, if you ask Mata, she'd say she's troublesome. All right, close. The one thing about these are you do not need to hit save button. It automatically saves, which is lovely. Having said that, I can't tell you how many times I've controlled S and it opens up this weird box, and I'm like, I don't have to save on this program. It's lovely. Okay, and we'll put Grandma G, who is her grandmother. She is actually a supporting character. And upload file, Grandma G, there she is. All right, so, and she is a smart lady. All right. All right, so we have 3 characters. I think that's plenty for what we're doing here. The other thing we have is places. Same concept. So in her case, we'll do Mata's house. It's in the woods. You can choose an image. I have locations, Mata's house, open. See, this is a case of, this is what the actual picture looks like. This is how it's going to come out. There's not much I can do about that, but I do see a little corner of the house itself, and it's in the woods. It really pushes that story home for me. So, and you can put extra descriptions, any notes you want to keep, like, there's a water well out back. That comes up in one of my stories. So, I'll put one other place. Oh, you know what? It's uncategorized. When it comes to categories, whenever you're in a tab, you actually have the option to create categories. So this is a main location. So I'm just going to add that in there. And then a secondary location. Okay, and you can add as many categories as you want. You can make them whatever you want. So when you have categories, there they are. And I'm going to hit main because that's one of the main places that we go during this time. So that's a location. Let me just drop one more location in here just so we have a second location, the farm. And well, actually, I'm just going to say childhood because it is something we see a lot in her childhood stories. It's her pa's farm. Okay, it is a main location in her childhood. We do have a picture of it. Okay, there's the farm. All right. Same problem here. I would tell you just trim down the barn itself if that's what you want. Find the part of the picture you like the best, and you can cut it you can just cut it if you have a Mac. I don't know how to do it on a PC, but you can create it however you want, and then you can choose it, and there it is as an image. Okay, so we have characters, we have places, tags. Tags are another big one. I use mostly in my novels. I haven't used them as much here. I will tell you about tags when we get over to my novels. With notes, I did not actually do this section because I forgot on my last tutorial. With notes, I am somebody who likes to create a lot of words, especially in my Mata stories. The one I came up with in this season is called Jigger Jaggers. Jigger Jaggers. What's the definition? It's lightning. That's actually not how you spell lightning, but there you go. And I could put an image, but we all know what it is. And okay, it's not a main. You know what it is? Categories. Okay, this is worth a note. Since we're in notes and not places, not characters, we're in notes. When you hit this category button, this is the category button for the notes section. So I'm going to put words. Okay. So, or countryisms. That's what it'd be great if I could spell to this morning. So when I go to category, it's a countryism. Okay. And what will happen on this side is, see how it says countryism? What's another word I use? Thunder bumpers. Can't have jigger jaggers without thunder bumpers. That's thunder. Okay. And that is a countryism. Okay, so that one ended up there. She has a lot of expressions. So as a category, I might put expressions. My favorite expressions that I use myself is, you can bet your boots. She says that a lot. And that's an expression. So what does it mean? The definition? It means you can assume. Okay. And then if you notice over here, there's the countryism, there's the expressions. Okay. So this will help you keep track of whatever kind of notes. Like if you're writing a novel, maybe you want to keep notes on one of your characters. Maybe you want to keep notes. In my case, I'm doing Jack and the Beanstalk, and I have to keep track of beans, which who knew keeping track of beans was going to be a thing. So, and if we went over to characters again and you go to categories, see, it's completely different. It's still the main, supporting, other, and you can create these to whatever you want. Same with places. If you go over to places and you hit categories, main, secondary, they're going to be different for whichever tab you're in. I don't often use the outline button, but you could. It keeps track of your timeline in a different way. What it does is like you can bounce around, like say maybe today I feel like working on chapter 3. It goes to chapter 3 here and this card. You go to the outline, you go to chapter 3. This is the card that you're working on chapter 3. Okay. I don't believe you can work on it from here, but it helps you have a visual representation of your timeline in a different fashion. It basically puts your cards down with the information. Okay. So it really can be a great tool for trying to keep track of the information that you're putting into your stories. Now, the other thing I learned about this morning when I was playing around with it before you guys came was attributes. I'm actually going to close out of this project. Anytime you are done with a project, you can always like say, like, I want to work on season 2. I would just hit this project button and it would take me back to my main page for that particular series. And then you can go into the next book. I actually want to change what series I'm working on with you guys right now. I want to take you over to my novels. So the dashboard button is always in the upper right corner. I hit it and then there are my projects. Okay. So I'm going to take you into my stocked books because my stock books are what I've filled out the most so far. And by most, I mean very little's done. These are the covers to my actual books. And you all are getting an advanced peek. I have not released this cover yet, but this is my book that's coming out in 2025. Okay. So let's go into the Conti Rose. That's my first book. I am currently, since I found out about this program, this is how I'm using this program. And this is why I like it so much. So these are my first 5 chapters of this book. The reason I'm bringing you to the novels is because I actually use, I think, every single feature of this thing in this program. So going into Magic Beans. Now you look, there's the characters that are involved with this chapter, this specific chapter. And if I forgot somebody, I wanted to add somebody else, I can look at my character list. Now, this list is based off of this menu of the character thing. It's not built in this card, it's built in the character section, but you can add it to this card. Same with the places. The Allagot Forest is where it takes place. And again, that's in the place tab, right? So we have the synopsis here. When I was teaching this before, I used one of the templates. I told you about templates just briefly. Just like everything else, just like the attributes, everything you go into has its own templates. The templates don't necessarily cross over. They're individualized per where you are. So we are in one of the information cards. So I could add a template and look at these templates it gives you. Gives you all these. You can fill them out if it helps you in any way, shape, or form. You can skip it. It just depends on what you want. Okay. I actually did fill out one of these cards. This is the one I chose. And when you pick one of these cards, it says, what does the character decide to do in response to the setback? It tells you what kind of question it's asking, and you give the answer down in this box. Okay. So how does the character respond to the setback in the previous scene? Sarah starts the scene very confused because she doesn't know where she is. She just knows that she's being chased and she needs to get away. That's the problem. And the character what choices does the character have to respond to the setback? Where will each choice lead? She's lost in the woods. That's the choice. She has to just find her own way. What was the response? She continues to run in the direction away from what she thinks is danger, the wolf. Okay, the big bad wolf is chasing her. All right, I did tell you I was going to talk to you about tags. Tags I don't necessarily think could help everybody with every book ever written. In my case, I have a lot of dream sequence chapters. I also have dream sequence and reality, like she wakes up and then there's a moment in the real world. I keep track of these with the tags. So this chapter is strictly a dream, and I made it pink. Now, I have made both the color. This is actually the color of the card. If you go out, notice it's pink. You could change the color. I'm not sure how you could use it differently than the tags. But if you go into the tags, I created different types of tags. I did dream, reality, half dream, reality. So half the chapter's dream, half of it's reality. This is how I personally use tags. I'm sure there are other ways. I just haven't really found a need for anything else. Okay, so let's go back out to the timeline. I personally keep my tag and the color of the tag as the color of the card. So when I'm out in this timeline, I can see right away the first chapter is a dream. The second chapter is a dream / reality. Both happen in this chapter. And then it's all reality. Okay. So that's how I use it. All right. So that's tags, colors, places, characters, chapters, scenes, everything in that. Attributes. Attributes are how do you want to track something you want to track throughout your story. Now, I think attributes are right here. When I create, well, that's the attribute for that. Where's my attribute? Where did I put my attribute question? Give me a second. If you can imagine, this gets confusing quick because there's a lot. There it is. So it is on the main page, on the main timeline page. I use this as kind of my base page for when I'm in a project. Attributes helps you track something throughout the story or throughout the series of stories. Okay. In my case, I'm trying to keep track of those beans, who has them, and how many we have left. Because this information is in constant flux through my 4 books. Okay. So when you add an attribute here, when you're in the card, first thing you notice, that attribute's right here for this particular chapter. Old Madge has it, and there's 6 of them. If I go to the next chapter, I go to attributes. Sarah now has them, and there's 6 of them. I think Sarah has them for the first few. And I think you find out down the road that it starts to dwindle down to 1. And the beans are important to keep track of because they're the crux of my story here. Okay. So that tells you about colors, all that information. Now, notes. When I told you I keep this as a dictionary. These are my words in my dictionary. And these are, okay, so an alcohol squirrel is a kind of squirrel that you find in the Allegot forest. I made it up, and I gave the definition. I did places. I did like parposas are a type of blue flower that resemble a butterfly. Okay. I also did quotes, something somebody said. This is an old Madge quote. Honestly, it's something I plan on using more for marketing purposes, but it's good to keep track of a good quote if something pops along. The historical events, I do discuss historical events that obviously I made up for the purpose of this book. And then once in a blue moon, you'll have miscellaneous things. I don't have anything under the miscellaneous category at this time, but that's the joy of if I did categories here, you will see all the different things that I have created to keep track of as I go along. Okay. The other thing I like about this program, I told you it was very sophisticated. Because this is a series of books in this particular project. Let's go to book 2. Okay, I haven't started building the timeline for this. I have written it, it is published, but I have not started building this timeline. It's something I'm doing next year. When I build this card, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do templates on this one. We'll go through and do templates in a second. What did I call this chapter? I'll just make up a name for it for now. If I go to characters, look at that. These are all the characters I built in this character tab. And I know that Sarah is in this chapter. I know that the first thing is a reality scene. Actually, no, I take that back. It was no, I'm in the wrong book. It was a reality scene. And the place was, it's not actually built into this one because I've only done the first book, but it was in Kenora. And so you can pull things because basically the outlines, the notes, the characters, the places, the tags, they exist across every project you build, every book you build in this project, because this project is known as your series. That's why if we go back out to the dashboard, I have my novels. This is my current novel series. I have my goose rhymes. This is my Mother Goose Rhyme stories right now. If I go into that, see, these are the books. And once you build the 4, if you're thinking, can I add a 5th? You just slide on down. I didn't see that the first time. I'm actually working on season 5 right now. Okay. So let's go back. I hope your brains are spinning around with questions because gosh knows mine sure did. Let's go back to the goose rhymes here. Now, when you're sitting here, you've seen, I'm sure, start with a template. You see this on almost everything you go into. If you come into here, you can add a template. If you go out to the timeline, I'm trying to think of, I think the timeline is built based off a template. The templates are not the same from card to card, from the menu bar, just like the attributes are different from point to point to point. The templates are different from point to point to point. So if you start, look at all these different possibilities you can create. Okay. And they think of everything on this. You got a cozy mystery. You got a children's book. You know, you got this is a 12-step mystery. You know, a romance. Why not? Romance and different kinds of romances. They have everything I could possibly think of. I'm a big fan of romances. I'm tempted to lean towards romance. Let's go down to romance. Where was it? Here we go. Romancing the Beat. What you do is when you click on it, it shows you the format that it uses. Okay, this is what's going to pop up on your timeline if you so choose it. Okay, so if you hit choose, this is what will pop up. Again, you can pick the cover if you want to. You can edit the information if you want to. We're going to say romance. So we know, and this is what pops up. This is the template it gave you to follow to write it. if you click on the card, it will give you the information that you should fill out in order to do this chapter, if you will. So phase 1, setup, the hook of the reader's attention and draw them into the story by introducing the first hero heroine while showing them their everyday life. And they usually give you, like, that's something, and it takes you step by step through the different things. Okay. You go and see, this is the interest. You can go into it, or you can just scroll over it and it will show you what's on the card. Okay. So this will show you the different possibilities. Maybe you say, I didn't like that one. Let's delete it. That was a terrible template. Let's try another one. What was the other romance thing we had? This is the second one. Opening gives you a hook, insights, incidents, climax, crisis. Sounds like my kind of story. Let's call it romance again. All right. All right, let's see what's different about this one. All right, introduce the protagonist. They sure like introducing the protagonist in everyday life. Okay. And you can go on. And I mean, like, when you add this kind of a template, like when you're in your attributes, like this is where it would say that bean question, like who has the bean and how many are there. This is the tab that would have that. I created that tab just as a fresh reminder on the main page. I use this main page. I'll keep going back to this main page because everything is here in this menu bar. Okay. So if you're in here and you say like you just want to do goals and motivation, this is the information that you're going to be filling out in this template. And you can just click on it and it'll show you what information is. Again, you do not need to fill any of them out. You can only fill out one. You can fill out whatever helps you best. Okay. I know when I go into the characters and say I'm creating a character. Oops, let me try that again. When I do the add template, I think the character's bio is the one I really like because it has hair color and eye color. I like these because I love keeping track of these two things. Surprisingly, I bring them up a little too much in my books. What city are they born in? You know, like, and as soon as you choose it, that information's on the card and you can fill it out. What's their life goal? You know, good habits they have. And the great thing is if you can add as many templates as you want. And it creates its own toolbar on the card right there. There's my characters. You know, in this is my characters list that we were building earlier. And if you go into the timeline, if you say add characters, there's that list of characters. And we can add a template. These templates, they're a little different than they are on the character card. Say, scene essentials. It gives you the hook, the purpose. That sounds like a good one. Let's put that in there. And you can continue to build these cards. You can build them up as much as you need. So I am a huge, huge fan of this program. I could use this. I mean, literally 5 minutes into the tutorial, I was already, already buying the program. I think it's $150 for 3 devices. I think it's only $10 less if it's, less things. So honestly, I think I've thrown enough at you guys. So I would say, is there any questions? Are we alive?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll go ahead and lower my hand so that we're working. Okay, a couple of things. I love what I see you doing with notes. That's absolutely amazing. And as far as things like items that you would be tracking through books in a series, and you say you use attributes for that. That's very cool. Is there a way to pull up an attribute and have it show where it is and where it isn't?
What you mean, like
say there's like I'm not doing fantasy, but say there's like a let's say there's a magic item and it gets introduced into book 2, but you won't really see anything going on with it again until we might see it twice in book 2, but not really sure if it's important or not. And then it's in book 4 or maybe book 3, it starts becoming a deal, but you need to double check where all that thing is in book 2, who had it, who saw it, who played with it. When you're addressing book 4, is there a way to pull up an attribute and like one of those screens that showed all the cards? If you could search attribute and then say, okay, it's here, it's here, it's here, and it's here. Is that something? Do you know?
The closest I can come up with that is like, let me just take you in. Yeah, the closest I can come up is to actually click on the card. I don't know is my answer. I could ask them.
Because I see how it pulls it up inside like a chapter or something, but
Let
if
me
it
see.
search across,
Let me check the outline real quick.
that would be absolutely wild. I really love how you describe notes, because I didn't think it could be used in, because I really don't know much of anything on it. I didn't understand that it could be used the way you did it. And I think that's, brilliant. Love it.
I think Plottr needs to give me some kickbacks as many times as I've sold it. I would have to check. I know what your question is. I'd have to check. It's not a bad question because basically what you're describing is me keeping track of those beans. You don't hear about them at all in the second book at all. Yeah. So I think they really don't show up again until the very, very end of the book. Mm-hmm. But I like to keep track of them because of that very reason. And I keep losing where they are. Yeah,
I think that could be a big problem. And the readers are going to remember it, but we don't. We're in trouble.
No, actually, they probably wouldn't. I mean, like that first book, I was constantly counting chapter to chapter how many beans were in the chapter because I had to count. Okay, so a bean is basically a wish. And I knew there 3 beans were handed to Jack at, Jack and the Beanstalk Jack. 3 beans are handed to him, and there were 6 given at the very beginning. So where are the other 3? And I had to keep track of that. So that's why I appreciate the attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's biggie.
Yeah. Evie Counts, did you go buy the program?
I absolutely did. And I really didn't get a chance to work with it, but now I have the courage to go back and play with it a little bit more. If nothing else, I'll call you and say, hey, I'm stuck. I'm loving the attributes. I'm loving the templates. So I know that those 2 pieces, once I get to them, will be of amazing assistance to me. So Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, nobody has questions. I mean, no need to keep us. It's just, I really geeked out when I first got it. I was using them constantly.
I bought it when they presented it in the summit, but I have, how I'd been using it because, I just like bazillions of little bitty scenes because I don't know how to do all my scenes yet. So I just outline all these things across. But to get to understand how to use the cards and particularly the attributes, but now what you mentioned with the notes, it's like, okay, I'm excited. And this is being recorded, so we can go look at this again because
you absolutely can.
I want to go through the notes a bunch of times.
Your beautiful faces will be shown to the entire world as well.
Oh,
I don't even have makeup on today, so hello.
I'll wear a mask next time.
Now, I think one of the biggest challenges for me is that I just struggle really hard with being that organized. Like for me, I am a pantser. I cannot get past it. Like I will jot down, like my outline is very simple. I know I want this to happen in the beginning. I want this to be about the midpoint, and this is how I want the book to end. And then I just sit down. I mean, sometimes I'll write a chapter in the middle of the book. Sometimes I'll write the beginning. Sometimes I'll write the end. Sometimes. And so a tool like this, like I would have to train myself to be this, to go in and actually do that, because I don't want to spend time organizing. I just, when I have such little time, when I have the time, I just want to sit down and write. But I also know that that process has caused me so much pain. So
Well,
it
here's the
seems
other
like-
thing, because I told you that I use it, I'm using it in back. Like I've already written the book. I'm not using it to organize my thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm doing here is like, I'm just putting the chapter down, and like, I put the synopsis of the chapter. So I knew what it was, who the characters, place, reality, all that jazzy jazz. And then like any notes or questions I had after I read the chapter, so I can keep track of the questions I need to make sure are answered. So when I get to the last book, when I'm done, that's why, like, say, Alexa, you said like maybe you wrote something in the middle, right? So let's just pretend like your book is 10. So put that note right here. And you don't even have to call it anything. You can call it B. And you could build all those thoughts right there. And then you said, oh, I'm starting back at the beginning. Here, we'll put down here so I don't get confused. Oh, I'm writing the first chapter today. So you go back to, well, maybe not chapter 3, but you go back to chapter 1, you write chapter 1, or maybe today I'm going to write chapter 6. You can bounce around this thing. And like I said, I use it to keep or just keep my thoughts in order. And you move those things around if you don't like which order
Yeah,
you have.
actually, that's not a bad point, because what I find happening, and this is why it was so painful to me when I went back through. So right now I've written a ton of the book 2 in my series, but I have all these Google Docs and they're named like, you know, Lila goes back to Paris. Lila and Sam have a fight. Lila sees Pierre, but I don't like, so this, I think that, but when I'm going through, I have to open all of them and figure as I'm revising and figure out where they go. So actually, I think this would be really helpful for me to just go through and put those thingies in order. So at least that when I come in to revise, I know which one to go to. So it'll take me a little bit of time to do that project. But then when I go and when I'm editing, that's, I think, what I'm going to work on in our writing session today, is just mapping them all out on that. And taking
not
that
in editing, but as you're expanding your writing, because you can, oh, I want that here, and that's going to be its own little other thing, and plop it in there. But you'd have them all in one piece of overall real estate that you could surf through to find what you want.
You can shuffle things around on that timeline to say, does this flow right? That doesn't. So let's move this further, you know. And I would recommend put obviously all the chapters in one folder. You could give them identifiers. I don't know if you'd use letters. I'd hate to use numbers because then you're going to associate those with chapters.
Right.
But, you know, like give them an identifier, like maybe a 1-word main theme of the chapter. And then that way you could just put the card and put the main theme as the thing. And then you can shuffle it around or whatever.
Well, like you said, Lila goes back to Paris or something.
Yeah, that's how I've got them identified now. So I know, you know, big fight, sees Emily again for the first time, you know, meets Emily's boyfriend or whatever. Like, so then I have them labeled like that. And then I can go back through and use Plottr to help me put them in order, because I just wrote all these random chapters.
One other thought that might give you a headache. It just had a thought. I remember there were some things you said there was stuff about the first one, the first Paris one, that maybe you weren't happy about, that you had done or should have done something differently. What if you dissected that and put it into Plottr? Maybe it would show you some things. Oh man, I should have this here, or I got to be sure to do that in this now, or something like that. Idea. I mean, that's a time thing, but it might also be like an amazing learning process for what you want to do differently, book 2 from book 1.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And the great thing is you can build your characters there and your places there, and they will be in all the books. So if you have the same character, you don't have to build that tab
Oh,
again.
yeah, yeah. That's
That's
great.
that's a great thing about this. It's a very sophisticated program.
Well, I'll
Maybe
go
we
in
need
and
to have
play with
plotter
it.
sprints.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
seriously.
Let's have
right.
plotter labs.
Yes, yes, nice idea.
I'll sign up.
During the writing sprints, we
Who-
can create a subgroup for it for the plotter support group.
Yes, seriously. We'll have a secondary room for Plotter.
All right, Christy's had her hand up for a little while.
Yeah, Chris.
So how long does this take for you to do an entire book?
I haven't done an entire book. I couldn't tell you. To be honest, I haven't had the chance to sit and do an entire book. And it just depends on how much information is going into what you're doing. I mean, it was funny because I gave myself 1 day per chapter on my stocked books, and I was filling in so much information, and somehow I accidentally deleted the project. I had only done 5 chapters, thank God. But then I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm teaching Plotter, and this was my last group I taught. I was teaching it in 2 days, and I was like, I got to put something together quick. And I put 5 chapters together within an hour
Yeah.
instead of a day. So and I did the bridge versions. It depends on if you're
Yeah.
filling in information versus just doing little shorthands for things. And
I guess for me, using Scrivener, Scrivener can do a lot of this. It doesn't necessarily look the same, and I'll have to see because I'm doing this in November for Scrivener.
Yes.
If I can track things like I think I can track reveals throughout, and I'm pretty sure I can track MacGuffins throughout. It's like your beans. I can track objects and other things like are pretty easy, like places and characters are pretty easy set up within Scrivener as well. So it's just, I wonder, because I plan to a certain extent and then I wing it. I'm like a planter.
Yes. I
So
like that planter.
now I'm a combo.
I am too.
So yeah, I guess I could see your point of doing it after the fact too, if you're in a series, so that you make sure you're tracking everything for book 2 and book 3. So something to keep in mind. I'm doing a lot of thinking.
The
I don't-
tricky thing about Scrivener,
It's-
Scrivener's an actual writing file. Like you could
Yeah.
actually write there. Plotter's not designed for that. It's more of a brainstorming
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. So you don't actually do your writing within Plotter. It's somewhere else.
Correct. And I use Scrivener just to like write. And actually, now that I am huge into Vellum, I edit a lot in Vellum instead of Scrivener now. So my Scrivener files are out of date. Is what it is. So
Cool. Well, great. This was fun. And for anybody who's coming back at 12:30 for the writing sprints, we can if anybody wants to continue the discussion, or if you have time between now and then, play with it and then come back with questions, we can put y'all in a breakout group.
Well, thank you for doing this. This is awesome.
No, I think I was happy when people said that and just made the comment that, you know, they like these tools but just don't know what to do with them. And I think we were brainstorming with a small group of people. I know Cay was there, a couple other people were there, and we were just like, what can we do? I think Christy might have been there. We're like, what can we do about this? So this was definitely a group think result of, hey, let's do this. And I think hopefully will be really useful to people. And, you know, it's a great benefit to our sponsors too, because they're paying money to be put in front of our audience. They have these great tools. They're offering these wonderful coupons. But if people don't just feel overwhelmed from them and don't go and grab them. So if you haven't gotten Plottr, and if you're watching this, I don't think that the discount expires until the end of the year. It's 2023 for people watching this on YouTube at some point in time. But you know, yeah, I'm excited to get into it. I really hope that it's going to help me. I really hope it's going to help me have a little bit less chaos, because I would love to move out of always being in chaos with my book projects. So, all right. Yes, Joe. Oh, Joe said, can you export it? Can you print it out as a book? Once you don't write your book in Plottr, you just organize it and outline it. So you're not going to be able to export your book. To be able to do that, you'd want to use, you can write it in AutoCrit, you can write it in Scrivener, which we're going to talk about next month.
Can you write
Atticus?
it for Rite Aid?
I don't know if you can write a book. You can actually write a
but
book in Atticus.
Weird, right? Okay.
yeah, it'd
So
be,
how
it'd
do
be
you-
weird to
how do you-
write
No,
it
they
in-
it uses documents from Google Docs or Word.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't think you can write in Pro Writing Aid.
Well, you
know
can
you
because you'd open up the box
yeah.
to assess something, but it would
Yeah.
be really clunky to do that. So,
Yeah.
So when you're using this, how do you take all of what you put in there and make your book?
You don't do that with Plottr.
you don't do that on Plottr. Yeah.
Scrivener's what you would do that in.
So you're creating your outline and your organization there. So you know when and where everything's going to happen. It just helps you keep it all organized. And then you would take that information and write it in Google Doc or write it in Scrivener or write it in whatever tool you choose to use, Word. So yeah, this is just your visual outline of what's happening and your opportunity to like Cay was showing us, put in information about characters or put in questions or drop things in like, oh, I need to add this piece to it. So it's literally just used to help you outline so that then you have that outline there, but then you have to go write it someplace else.
Yeah. I have
I think it's the most helpful for novels to be or long-term projects like what Cay has going on with her fables, things like that. That just, I don't know that I would purchase it for children's books, picture books, chapter books, anything like that. That's simpler, that you can do your outline fairly easily in a Word doc. Nonfiction books, it just depends on how much depth you need, but I really feel like this is best suited for novels than anything else.
Well, and it's the nice thing about it is I overthink, and this is my one cautionary for you, Alexa, is you have a lot of information and you're trying to put everything down. Don't get consumed by that either, because I can sometimes drive myself crazy if I'm overthinking things, and this program could easily take you there. You're like, oh, I should answer this question. Oh, I should totally know that too. And you start like almost driving yourself crazy with it. So it's good to put stuff down that you already have. And I would say put everything down that you already have. Don't add templates would be my recommendation. But then once you have everything down that you already have, then go back and then start adding templates. So it will ask you the questions that maybe you want to try to figure out the answer to. That's my 2 cents.
All right, I know we had a few people join us here at the end. Sorry, we are wrapping this up right now, but I will be loading this to YouTube. So if you're subscribed to us at youtube.com/write publish sell, you'll get that notification as soon as it comes out. If you're not already subscribed, go to youtube.com/write publish sell, and I'll also send out an email to everyone who registered so that you can get this, and make sure to keep an eye out for the email for next month where we're going to dig into Scrivener.
Alexa, is there a place they can contact if they have any questions for me? Is there some place like on the Facebook page or what?
I would say at this point in time, if they have questions about the tool, they should probably go to Plottr directly. I don't think you want me to give out your email address to 15,000 people. So
You'll never have time to write.
So, exactly. Be like, and Cay is now full-time Plottr.
I was like, unless y'all want to join my email list, and then you can get a question in.
All right, awesome. Well, for those of you who are in WIP school, we'll see you in about 25 minutes in our writing sprints. For everybody else, please make sure that you head over to womeninpublishingsummit.com/events. We have a lot of stuff happening in October. I should rename it Webinartober for the but we've got so much fun stuff going on. So I hope you will join us. And thank you, Cay, so much. This was great. We appreciate you, and we'll see everybody
Yeah,
soon.
thank you.